chase happiness and don't quit on yourself.
Like you're on a mission and life is business and business is life all in one. Like if you want to really get serious and honest, like I didn't have a life, right? It was just business.
For me personally, why I liked the remote was because it was easier for me to hide my panic attacks and my anxiety. Welcome back, everybody. Today we are talking about working in office versus remote, and I guess personal pros and cons that we see for ourselves, as well as just other things in general about those two.
Right.
So what do you think? What do you prefer at this point? Because we've been remote for several years now, and
I mean,
what's your preference?
I'm 50-50, I would say, because it's easy to get, caught up in the remote life where you don't really have to go anywhere. It's nice and convenient. But in my personal opinion, I think if you're trying to grow a large company, I think being in an office environment is a lot better. So, like I said, 50-50.
I more 80-20, or maybe even, I'd leave it at 80-20 or right around there for office versus the 20 is remote. When we first started, I was all gung-ho about, being able to work from home because of the convenience, right? That is the number one thing that you have. But everything else for me is more distracting. You have so many more distractions, and a person who has ADD, trouble, focusing for a long time, working from home is just not really great for that. Not to say that you can make it work, because obviously we've made it work. You can have a specific area where, you make a home office, right? And the moment you step in there, everything is work and focus and business, and you leave the distractions on the other side of the door. But if you don't have that, like we have the 1-bedroom apartment, so can't have it in the physical space, but living in an apartment building, we have a whole floor, which is common with, rooms that you could book out for free to work out of. But even then, there's still like small distractions because people aren't really paying attention to what others are doing and how loud and obnoxious they're being, right?
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, so it depends also person to person, right?
Absolutely.
So for me, I said 50-50 because I can get things done, right? Like if I'm at home, it doesn't matter if I'm at home or if I'm at the office. Like I'm just like, this is what I'm focusing on and I'm knocking them out, right? Like my day always starts with the most important tasks. I want to get them done first. And I basically don't start something until I get them done, right? And then I move on. So it's like, for me, focus is not an issue. But for a lot of people that, they just like you said, there's a lot of distractions. And if you can't focus on work, you can't get things done, you have to go in the office, right? Like for those, I would say like, if you can't figure that part out, remote is not for you. And that's why I feel like as a business owner, if you're trying to grow a large business, there's a reason why companies are trying to push back everyone to the office, right? And it's for those reasons that you just said, plus many more. It's not only that you're more productive and you can, focus more. And like I said, it's not for everybody because there's always going to be roles where people still are great at what they do if they're working remotely, right? But for majority people, I would say that's not the case. They have to have a manager looking over at what they're doing. And it's not even for, makes it easier for them. It also makes it easier for the manager, right? Because it's a lot harder for me to check in remotely than it is when I'm just passing by and I could look at your screen, what you're doing, and just be like, oh, what are you working on? Right. And then I could make my round again in an hour or so and see where you're at. Right. So it's like, from a business perspective, it's possible to grow remotely, right? If you're a big company, but I think it's so much easier and more beneficial if you have the whole thing in an office environment.
Right. Not to say even people who get distracted easily, you can make it work. Because, I mean, we've been doing it for years, right? You just got to figure out a way that makes it work for you. Like you do the most important. And I feel like everybody should be doing that. Your most important things should be at the very start of your workday, whenever that is. Knock that stuff out, and then your day becomes a lot easier and less stressful because you're not worried about the big things. Right. But yeah, office environment for those reasons, like you said, are huge. As a business, you should incentivize being at the office too, you know, like lunches for people, you know, bring your pet to work day, like dog or cat or something. Like, make the environment fun, not daily for certain things, right? You could do it like once a week or every 2 weeks or month or whatever. Other things are daily, right?
Yeah. That's that whole culture that you're trying to create, right? It has to be working.
It's a lot easier to build a good company culture when it's in office.
Right. And I mean, look what's going on recently. Like, people, like even you, for example, at first I remember you preferred working at home, right?
Yeah.
When it all started.
Yeah.
And so have a lot of people that I spoke to. And now they're flipping, right? Because why? Because they're sitting at home. There's no other people to talk to. They get lonely. There's a lot of different reasons, right? And now everybody wants an office. So it's like, why do you think that's happening, though, in your opinion?
For me personally, why I liked the remote was because it was easier for me to hide my panic attacks and my anxiety, right?
Oh, really? See,
So
I
didn't have to kind of remove myself from situations among people. When I had other jobs where I worked, you know, at Nona Silvia's with the restaurant, or at the furniture store, or wherever else, if I had a panic attack amongst people, I had to go and hide out in the bathroom for 15 minutes and let it pass, you know? Or
But do you think at that, when you were working with that many people, did it actually help you out because you were around people at the same time?
And see, that's the thing. Like, going now into wanting to go back in office, knowing how I've been able to manage my anxiety and my panic attacks, I know I want to be around people a lot more. And I kind of have seen that, like, my anxiety is baseline higher working remote because it's me, Jackson, the dog, and Marcy, my cat, in the apartment, right? And, well, Jess too, but Jess is usually sleeping during the day because she works at night. So me wanting to go back in office because of having people around, now that I can manage my anxiety and my panic attacks a lot more, that baseline comes down and I can be amongst people, right? So that's where I personally am at for switching into an office. And again, you're able to rally the team better when they're all in one spot, and you can see maybe somebody's having a shittier day and they might not have said it. Or maybe they did tell you, you know, I woke up today and it's just an off day. I'm not feeling it.
Yeah, you'll be able to tell.
You can't tell over a computer screen, right? And maybe you can tell in the sound of their voice, but that's only if you have a call set up with them that day. You're not having a call necessarily every single day with every team member. And if it is, it's maybe 15, 20 minutes, or If it's something a little bit bigger, then it's
Plus,
like an
it's
hour.
easy to just say, "Oh, I'll do it in an hour," you know, or I'll do it next day, and then the next day comes, you don't do it when it's
Right.
remote. But in the office, that's never the case. You just get it done, right?
Right.
So yeah, no, I mean, I see where you're coming with that, but on the other hand, there's people that told me, like, I know actually my wife is an example. She always used to say, like, I don't want to work from home, right? She's like, I don't ever see myself working from home. And I would tell her, I'm like, oh, I think you'll like it, you know? And then now when I ask her the same question, it's literally, I don't ever see myself going to an office again, you know? So it's like, it is different for everyone.
Right.
And I think if you're going to get a job or you're going to build a business, you have to build and you have to start from that first. Like, you have to determine what's going to make you happy. Is it going to be going to an office every single day, or is it going to be, you know, working from home every single day? And I think that should be the starting point for everyone, because that's how you could build on, right? And you could find jobs that are remote. There's plenty of them out there, right? And then there are jobs that you have to go to the office and people will not let you work remote, right? So, and then there are some that are half and half maybe nowadays,
hybrid.
right? Hybrid. So I think there's so many different roles. You just have to kind of fit your needs, right? If you're starting a business, I think a starting point for a business, I think you could easily start a business remote, right?
Absolutely. And it's more in your favor to start it remote.
Absolutely.
Because whatever capital you have saved up to start, you're not going to be putting it into an office for lease, you know, monthly rent there,
Right.
and whatever else comes with it.
Well, when you look at the biggest companies in the world and where they started, where did most of them start?
Garage, attic,
Kitchen,
kitchen.
room,
Yeah.
right? My very first business, I started in my bedroom. It's, you know, it was, I sometimes forget because we wanted an office so badly, because that's kind of like the cool thing, I guess, right? You're 19, you're like, oh, I want to be working, I want to have my own office. But then you kind of forget like the luxury that you have when you're working at home, right?
To wake up 5 minutes before you got to be on, and
Well, when I
just
used
roll
to
out of
wake up,
bed.
it would be like, you know, hello, welcome to King of Maids, right? Literally
in
straight out
bed.
of bed. The first customer that would call, that would be literally how I would wake up at the very beginning, you know? And no one knew that, right? You sound all professional because we had a nice script developed and everything, but you would wake up right from bed, pick up the phone call, and that's how the day started, which would, I mean, always would be around 7:30 or something like that, because that's when the, you know, phone would be open up to the public, to the customers, and that's when we would start to get the call. But that's how it went. And then the whole day, you know, me and my business partner would talk, and the whole company started.
shout out Camille.
Yeah, shout out Camille. And he would actually be in his room, right? And we would be on Skype. That's how easy it was to start when, you know, all this stuff was happening, when all these online tools came out, right? Literally, we were on Skype. I would wake up, pick up that first phone call, turn him on Skype. So it was kind of like, with him, it was a little bit different, because it felt almost like being in office, because we were on 24/7, right? Because like I say, we woke up, turned the Skype on, till the moment we would basically be done with business, we would turn that Skype call off, right? So it's kind of like you're in an office with someone, because you're always on call, you're always talking. But
Right.
the reality is, like, you will not be doing that with 10 people or 5 people, right? It was just me and him who would be doing that. And like, if I had to go shower or go grab something to eat, I would literally put him on mute, go down, grab something, and come back and eat, right? So
Well, and just to stop you right there, that's another part of the issue of remote, right? You have no difference. There's no differentiating office or work and home life. Like, you don't have that separation.
Right.
If you have an office, the moment you step out of the house and you're in transit to your office, well, you're basically, you know, my work day has started because I'm out the door. But when you work from home, it's so hard for your brain to realize, like, all right, working hours are 8 to 5, 9 to 6, or whatever it may be, right? Yeah, people can argue that it is easier if you have a specific room in your house designated for work hours. Like, I go in, I close that door, and I don't leave, maybe, okay, to go to the bathroom or whatever, but 9 to 5 or 9 to 6, whatever it is, when you're in that room, it's work. And then before that, it's not. And then after that, it's not. And it's home. And you can just keep that door closed until the next day. And that's how you can differentiate that. Sure, great. If you have a house and you have a spare room to dedicate to an office only.
Right.
But most people don't.
Yeah, most people won't. But yeah, that is true. Like, it is basically like a life and business mixed into one. You don't know, which, like, you just cannot kind of differentiate them, right? If you're doing it all from home. Lucky for me, when I started, I didn't care, right? Because, like, you're on a mission, and life is business and business is life all in one. Like, if you want to really get serious and honest, like, I didn't have a life, right? It was just business. So for me, and I was fine with that, right? That mentally is how I felt like this is the only way we're going to achieve things. And it actually made it fun. Like, I tell people all the time, like, you have to figure out how to make business fun, because if it's never going to be fun, you're going to give up on it, right?
And you got to come to terms with it early too, that you basically, I don't want to say trick your brain into it, but you have to know that if you're starting a business and you are sure that this is what you want to do, in the very early on, you're never going to turn that part of your brain off.
Right.
Business is always going to be...
If you're serious.
If you're serious, and...
You don't really think about, like, business or, what would you say, home, right? It's like kind of all at one, because you're always thinking about something that's happening in business if you're serious.
And like in the last episode, we talked how starting a business is like a child, right? Like we're a family, the business is a child. If you have a kid, you're not being like, well, all right, I'm a parent from 9 to 5.
Exactly.
After that, it's off. No, it's not. And if you're serious about business, you can't turn that part of you off. Like, if you have an idea come to your mind about something, or you're like, oh crap, I forgot to do this, you instantly jump in and go take care of it, right? Or you're writing that part down so that you can take care of it later on if it's just some idea or whatever. But,
and that's a constant battle that you fight from day one till basically when you say, I want to retire, because it's like...
Yes and no. Yes, because you'll always have those ideas come to you, but with the more you grow and the bigger you get, now you start hiring out for different positions, right? And you fill those roles, and then you only think about the bigger things.
But that's still business.
It's still business,
that's what
but it's not as intense, I should say.
I mean, it depends. I would say, yeah, maybe it's not as intense, but you're always trying to push, right? So if you really are hungry for the next level, it never stops. And that's why I'm saying it's a constant battle of figuring out time for this versus time for that, right? Like, you have to figure out times or, times in the day where you're going to basically work when you actually have a life. Like, fast forward, let's say you have children or you're married or something, you want everything to work. Now, yes, you're thinking about business, but now you still know you have to think about the other part of your life, right? So that's when it starts to be like a constant battle of back and forth. I'm doing this today, I'm doing that today to make it work, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I don't think that will ever stop, but that's why I think you have to figure out a way to make business fun. Because if you won't, then as soon as you get a family or something like that, right? You have a girlfriend, boyfriend, or you actually start to enjoy a hobby or something, that's when business is going to be, second. And you really don't want to do that, because it only takes a little bit to take you out of business if you're not paying attention, right? You always have to be on. And yeah, that's why it has to be fun, because if it's not fun, you will put it second. And you don't want to do that. You always want to make sure that you're paying attention to what's going on, because you want to keep growing, And
to a separate point, if, whoever's watching right now is thinking, well, how can I make sure I don't fall into having that, like, where it's not as fun and I'm going to put it second? Business partners, right? that is immense. And not saying you need to have a business partner, but that is just another big pro to having the right business partner. And
For
it's
me, right? For me at least, and for a lot of people.
for every, I mean, I believe
Maybe
the
not
same
for
thing.
everybody, because some people might really truly hate people and they don't want to work with anybody. You know, if that's
Right.
the person,
If that's who you are, great. You can stay like that and you can ignore this part. But for people who are actually wanting a business partner or, you know, in between the idea, that's a big pro, because when you have an off day, your business partner most likely isn't, unless something happened to the business where it affected you both, right? But in the grand scheme of things, if you're having an off day, they're not. So that's where you lean on them to help you and boost you up through that. And I know we've had that so many times where I've leaned on you from having my panic attacks and my anxiety attacks throughout the years in the early stages, where I'm like, I don't know if I could, you know, today is really bad. Like, I couldn't focus. And I remember there were several times where you saw that I was struggling bad and you're like, you know what? We're ending it early. Like, we're finish up whatever you're doing right now. Just take care of it. And then we just went and played video games. We played 2K.
Right.
Or we went to the park and played basketball. Like, knowing that and having that take your mind off just to kind of give you that reset is huge.
no, I agree for sure. And I mean, as you as well, right? As a business partner, that's how I felt having you around, because it was just always making things fun, knowing that I don't have to do this by myself.
Right.
You know, it's like, I remember there was one time, I think I told you, when I bought out Camille and I had to, there was like a stretch where I worked for the very first time by myself. And it was like week after week where I would go to the office and I would literally just be me, right? No one around, really, no one to talk to, because everybody else was just employees, right? It's not, there was no connection with them. So it's just me going there, and I started to realize,
Well, connection on a professional level, not
on a personal
Personal,
level, right?
yeah.
And then I was like, wow, I started to kind of feel like if I keep doing this over and over and over again for a very long time, I'm going to turn into one of those people that's just super grumpy when I get older, because I'm going to think like, well, I've gone through all these hard times by myself. I don't need nobody. You know what I mean? That's kind of where it was heading. So if I kept doing that for, 5 more years, I would have been like, screw everybody, you know?
And honestly, there were times where you came home and you were like that for like no reason. And it wasn't for no reason. It was that you were there so long, and it was just, because I know the room that you were in that office, it was windowless. It was a room in the middle of that space. Windowless, I mean, the cheap fluorescent lights that weren't super bright.
Like those the big office lights,
And
I think.
yeah. And it was like a big conference table with wooden chairs that were uncomfy as hell. Anybody who's sitting there, I mean, Greta's nodding, anybody who sits there for weeks on end every single day for 12 plus hours, you're basically putting yourself in a position where you're driving yourself crazy.
Exactly. So like it is important. It is extremely important to make it fun. However way you do it, everybody's going to be different. Figure out a way to make it fun.
And that's what like kind of our dynamic is, where you are very business focused. Not to say that it's not fun, but it's very serious business focused, where I come in and it's to make it lighter, to
Right.
make it a little more fun, and like, I don't want to say humanize it or put like that on it, but it just,
It's okay. I like to be like
you were
seen as a robot basically in the business
that's
world.
exactly, it was Terminator-esque almost. Like, it was just get the task done and like damn near emotionless. And I see, knowing you from high school, I know that's not who you were. It's just you turned into it because of having that end goal that you've always wanted when you first started business? Because I mean, I know we've talked about it so many times. So I know that you turned into that because you had to. And the times where you were, you know, alone after you bought out Camille, you doubled and tripled down on it because you had to, you know. But now you're still like that, but it's less, you know, because I mean, you're married, your wife helps out, we're doing this. Like, it's not super crazy things that's like from the beginning 6 years ago where it was little tedious time consuming things.
Yeah, I feel like I'm still that person when it comes to the important things, you know, not like everything, not the, like you said, the tiny things where it used to be throughout the day, like someone just coming into the office and they're saying something, they know not to do that because they're just basically going to be fired, right? Like that's how it used to be early on, but now it's different, right? It's like obviously you don't want someone goofing around, but it's not going to be like Terminator, like you said.
Well, there was a scary part. You weren't. This was before you and Jess. When we were going to the King of Maids office, there was one scary stretch for a little bit where I was like, I'm almost a little worried to say anything because you were just, the fire under your ass was so strong. And
I don't even know why and what was the reason. Do you remember? Were we on a roll? Were we going at a fast pace?
We were we were putting in so much time and effort, but when you looked at it, like when we looked at it, things were moving almost at like half a mile an hour, but it wasn't because of no effort, because the effort was there. We were putting in, 12, 14 hours a day. It's just that was the starting of the development, and it was in between, or right at the beginning of that slow period where, okay, everything's designed out. Vivek has everything he needs. There's nothing we can really do at this point. And that was that starting point before you realize, like, holy shit, I need to calm down a little bit, because there's like, as much as I put in, like, we were prepped with things, I think almost 9 months in advance, 6 to like 9 months. And in those like first 1 to 2 weeks, we wrote, like, even I was like, wow, we're putting in a lot of work and you don't see the growth. But that was because
was it during the time where we started developing Booking Koala?
Yeah.
So like the 2 years where you literally there's nothing you could do because it's under development. You can't even generate sales, right?
Exactly.
Maybe then, okay, I understand.
So we were starting that with marketing, right? Like, that's what we were taking care of. But it was the initial first 2 weeks after you already sent those plans to Vivek and the team early on, the first 2 weeks, where that realization didn't hit, where we were going to be super slow, or not slow, but just not see that things were moving along at the speed that we wanted.
Glad you remember, because I don't know, I just remember that as a whole phase, that it was like that almost, every single day for me. So,
and King of Maids was a little bit slower at that time too.
Yeah, slower because I didn't have anything to do, right? Because everything was like, the managers were in place.
Managers were in place. The sales reps were there. Customer service reps were there. And what also didn't help out, man, the one thing, if I could go back and change that, what I might have not done as 100% was the freaking diets. The diets that we were like doing, because we know you love to experiment with things. The no carbs and like very little food mixed in with that amount of time and energy that you got to put out, you would almost want to murder somebody from the moment you woke up, because you were like, I'm not saying you, I'm saying you in general, like anybody in that position. Like, I felt great when I looked in the mirror, because I like
But inside,
But inside, I felt like death.
well,
'Cause
yeah,
the
just
diets
like a
were so
bodybuilder, right?
Yeah, it was the diet was so extreme, and then you're putting in all that mental work and sitting behind a computer screen for that long. It was. I feel like when you added in the no carb diet, that's where it was like, whew.
Well, see, like with me, it was always something mental, where it's like I'm taking everything to extreme. You know what I mean? Because it's like I like to work out, and if I'm half-assing that, that means I'm giving up on this part, which means I'm going to give up on this part, right? That's kind of like what was going on through my mindset until I kind of maybe grew up out of it a little bit, because I haven't been on a diet like that in I don't even know how long, maybe 4 years or something like that, right? So I kind of grew up out of that, where I was like, okay, it's not, let's say, giving up on this part, it's just being smarter about it, okay? Because is being like, my goal no longer became like I want to be just great looking or whatever. It's like I want to live to 100 years old or possibly longer, as long as I'm healthy, right?
You want a healthy lifestyle.
Exactly. So now, like, all that changed, and now it's like, is that diet really what I need? No, right?
Right.
So
If you were going into bodybuilding,
That's different.
and you weren't in business, but you were in the business of becoming a bodybuilder
Right.
and like going to compete in shows or, starting a product line in that sense, that, yeah,
Right.
you would do that.
But did I give a crap about that later? No, right? So it's like things changed, diet changed, but the other part is still going, right? Like that mindset is still there, that extreme part. It's just in different aspects of the business. Like I said earlier, I'm no longer going after the specifics and I'm going to kill you about it because you didn't do it, right? I'm only making sure that the most important things that I see making the biggest differences, those are the things that you're being serious about, right? So yeah, I mean, but the whole point of all this conversation is just to basically tell people that you have to figure out a way to be happy throughout, your job or through business. Otherwise, screw it. Like if I was unhappy in a job, I don't give a shit. I am quitting.
Right.
I could promise you that, because I've always did in a way whatever I've wanted from pretty much day one, right?
If you don't want it, that is one thing that is far and true for you. If you don't like it, you're not doing it.
Right. So like, I understand some people, might be scared. And it's not to say that all the things that I've done are not scary, right? Because I think everything was risky that I've done, and everything somewhat was scary in one way, even for me possibly, right? So it's not to say that like, okay, someone is like, oh, maybe you weren't scared, I'm scared to lose my job or something. I don't care. Like there's no way I would be sitting in a job that I hate. So I would figure out a way to build my life where I'm happy. And it's not all about starting a business, because you see gurus all the time pitching, start a business. Like this is the only way that I'm going to make this much money. Absolutely not. Like you could still have a great career and a good income by having a regular job. So if you're on social media and you're seeing someone telling you business is the only way, right? Like that would be our goal, to get you to start a business, because we
Right.
got booking Koala, and the more businesses that join us, obviously the better, right? But I'm not the guy who's going to be telling you, let's start a business. Neither are you, because
Right.
we're like, it's all about being happy at the end of the day, right?
1,000,000%.
So yeah, I mean, job, business, whichever way you choose, it's whatever you want to do. But like to sit in a job that you hate, there's no way.
If you're unhappy, make a change. That's the thing. Maybe don't do anything drastic immediately. The only thing I would say go drastic about is your effort to make that change. Do look into what makes you happy, kind of analyze that, and then go in with that in mind and make those decisions.
Right.
If you want to quit your job immediately and then start looking for something, if you're financially set for several months to give you a cushion, go ahead, do it. Nobody knows your life better than you.
Right. Yeah, and that's that's why I hate people that like I shouldn't say hate, but really do not like when people are trying to tell you to do, like, basically fix your business. They know how to fix your business without even looking into it, or to quit on your business because there's nothing happening. Like,
those are my favorite emails getting from people. Oh, you guys, you have done great so far. Let me show you how I can 5x. You know nothing about me. You went on my LinkedIn profile, saw my business, went to the business website, see that it's big, and now you want to put your sales test, sales skills to the test and try and sell me for something for the future about us giving you money to get us leads. You know nothing about me or you or Vivek or what the direction is of the company.
Exactly. And that's why, like, you're always going to know more about your business than I will, because who's sitting at your business every single day working on it? You are, right? Or same thing about your child. You're the one who knows your child better than I ever will, right? You're the one who's raising it. So for someone to come out and give their input without knowing anything is literally like, just, why are you listening to their advice? It's okay to, like, listen and see if there's anything valuable out of there, but
don't pay them.
I mean, yeah, of course, don't pay 'em.
Don't ever pay them.
That's a scam right off the bat.
The gurus and consultants that will say, you need to change this without doing a deep dive into your business and taking out several days out of the week and several hours per day to really look into what it is, they waste of money.
Very true.
Waste of money.
And also to go back on the, like, quitting on your job or whatever if you're not happy. I'll add one thing to that because I think it's important to note. Like, see, if let's say you're about to choose happiness because you were getting paid like $100,000 or $50,000, and you're like, okay, I'm working $100,000 doing something I completely hate, right? Yeah, I would definitely not be working that job. But now if something comes around where it's like, okay, I'm about to pay you $1 million per year to do that job, right? Now this is where it gets different. And I would not be like, okay, I'm going to quit. I mean, of course, it depends what it is. If it's truly something now that I don't believe in or whatever, then I will not, because that's just comes into values, right?
Values and morals, then
I don't care about money in that, you know, if we're talking about that. But now if we're talking about, getting $1 million and working a job that you do not like, well, now we're going to think this differently, right?
But you could tolerate it.
Yeah, I'll tolerate it for a year or two and make a plan, right? And then I'll be like, okay, I just made $2 million in 2 years. I could definitely invest that somewhere else. So see, you have to really think about your happiness, but you always have to think a little bit extra, because sometimes it may be worth it to be uncomfortable in situations and not like what you're doing. Sacrifices. And they're always going to be there, right? Like in business, till this day, sometimes I do things that I don't want to do, but I look overall, I'm looking at the whole picture, right? So if I have to do something that I don't like for an hour today or 2 hours this week, but my life is pretty much perfect in everything else, you betcha I'm going to sacrifice that 2 hours, because it's like, that's fine to me, That
was one of the questions you asked me early on was, are you willing to sacrifice? Because it's gonna take it. And for several years, I did step away from the restaurant for a little bit, but we started in 2016 and I left the restaurant in 2020, 2021, something like that, 2021. So we didn't get paid until 2022 at the end of the year. You're looking at 4 or 5 years of not getting paid from the business when we did have revenue coming in after a year or two, and just working as a delivery driver on the weekends. I sacrificed time, energy and effort and money, not having the money, because of what I knew the end goal was.
Right. Yeah, so like you have to have some kind of plan, right? You cannot just quit because you're just not happy, you know? Like there has to be a plan to it, obviously. Something extra. Cuz like my plan always was like I don't care about my 20s. I'll sacrifice them right now if I could live happily, you know, in my 30s, 40s, 50s. Like I don't care because what's so good about your 20s, you know? Like sure, you're young, but I feel like if you treat yourself, you're young at 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, right? There are people that are 60 and 70s that are still, you know, in great shape and feel good about themselves. So what are 20s?
Right. Gary,
Just drinking and doing what? None of that stuff mattered to me, you know? So like I was like, I will work literally day in and day out until, you know, I hit 30, which I'm still planning to work till 40 because now it's a different job like we talked about earlier, right? It's like no longer the little things that you just hate day in and day out, which we've been working so hard, you know, for in the 20s to make sure that in the 30s we don't do those. It's still work, but different type of work, you know, being smarter, having money to leverage and things like that. So like that's why I never cared about the 20s, and that was my sacrifice, you know? So like people have to kind of like if they're going into business especially, they have to, you know, figure that out and what's important to them and how they're going to kind of achieve happiness. Because you know money's not everything.
No, it's not. I saw a reel a couple days ago from Gary V. He was saying to somebody, I think it was like on the street or something, 35, the age 35 is the new 18, right? And he goes on to explain like years ago, like our parents and grandparents and stuff, they were getting married at 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 early because life expectancy wasn't as long, right? Maybe not our parents, but grandparents, great-grandparents, stuff like that, right? And now he's saying 35 is the new 18 because we're living to 80, 90, 100 years old, you know, and our kids and our grandkids are going to most likely, hopefully, surpass that. And knowing that you can sacrifice your 20s and not jump into the rah-rah bullshit of partying and making yourself losing your life expectancy by doing that, you'll realize that there's a lot more to life now and not worry about those missing out those things because you can sacrifice we say sacrifice your 20s in a sense, right? But that's not necessarily saying you give up every single thing cold turkey and you don't do them. You can still do them. You're just not doing them every single day. You're not going and partying like I did, you know, in the early because I had a fake ID, you know, 18 and through 21, 22, partying Wednesday through Sunday and having Monday, Tuesday to recover, you know. That's give up those things and like do things that you enjoy. Because you may think you enjoy doing that and partying, but when you look back on it, you're blowing money that you can invest and not even invest in a crazy way and gamble, right? Like, just thinking back on all the times that we went to the clubs and got bottle service. And I mean, the cheap ones were $150, $200 a bottle. When you go in our, you know, in the Midwest, there's Binny's, right? The big liquor chain. The same bottle that we were paying $150, $200 for is $25, $30 at Binny's, right? So you can take that money, open up a stockbrokerage, you know, throw it into a blue chip stock or a mutual fund or something and just let it sit. And every time, that's actually a good way to look at it. Like every time you think, oh, tonight I'm going to go out and buy XYZ, pause and be like, do I really want to do this? And if you're going to do it, stop, take the money and go invest it in something real quick instead. And then just don't go out and do it.
Right. But then again, remember, try to have a little fun, right? Because like again, the bottle service and stuff, you have to blow off some steam, especially if you're like working 24/7. Because if you're not, then it's like, oh, it becomes real brutal.
And that's another thing, not doing it every weekend, right? Like, do it once, and you don't have to go get bottle service, right? But you could go enjoy, have a couple drinks with friends, go to Topgolf, you know, go to Dave and Buster's or whatever. I know there's other places that have, like, for adults, after a certain hour, you can have drinks and play arcade games and stuff like that and do that. By all means, go and do that. There's balance. All the crap that people are pushing on social media where it's like you have to go in 100%. That's where burnout came from, is where everybody started listening so much to that's where burnout became so prevalent. People were freaking out and going like, oh my God, I got to listen to this person because they're successful.
Right.
Their follower count's probably bought. Their comments are probably bought. Their likes are probably bought. They're faker than shit. What have they actually done? If you do research into their background, if they're a business guru and they say, oh, I grew this business and I sold it to X amount of figures, 6 figure, 7 figure, go Google the business and see where it's at.
Right.
Go see if there's actual media blog or article documentation online that they have actually done this, right?
Right. Yeah,
Like,
I mean, do your research, right?
like-
As we always say.
People could go and put your name in Google and there are articles about you that show that, right? And I mean, you still have the businesses. I mean, Booking Koala, we have that. King of Maids, you still own it and run it, you know? So I feel like we've gotten off the main topic of, you know, remote versus in office, but it all
Connects for a good reason.
It connects in the sense of
Being
you gotta be happy. You gotta look at what makes you happy. If you're a social person and you like to be around people, like myself, working in home only in remote situations, you're gonna burn out your happiness real quick. If you're a person that maybe has very high social anxiety and are a very reserved person, maybe remote is the better option versus in office or hybrid. You know, if you're like that or, you know, in the middle, then a hybrid, you know, a couple times in the office or being able to go into the office whenever you want versus just being remote.
Right. Yeah. So it all comes down to, again, figuring out what makes you happy, and don't like try to do a lot of stuff that is not you and just will not bring happiness. You know, one example that I give is because everybody says networking. Networking is like the thing that everyone has to have. But networking, it doesn't mean necessarily that you got to start going after every single person and like, I want to network with you. I want to network with you, right? Or hopping on a podcast with this person or that person. Because for me, I didn't like networking. I hate networking for the most part. Why? Because I always felt that like these people just want things out of you. You know, like if I go and give my time, it's going to possibly give time to a person that I don't even like. Why would I want to network with this person? You know, it's just, I have to get through, because look how long it takes to build a good relationship with a human being, you know? It's no different when you're networking. So to me, I was just like, instead of networking, I'm going to put my focus where I don't have to be in that situation. I'm just going to put myself in a room, develop. I feel like if I make a better product, I don't have to network.
Yeah.
You know, people will just come because we've built a superior product than someone else, right? While they're networking, it doesn't matter. Maybe they're going to get the customer first, but when they realize that ours is better later, they're going to come to us second, right? So I never sacrificed my beliefs and me wanting to, you know, just to talk to fake people, right?
Right.
And I still to this day, like, I don't do interviews. I hate doing interviews with people. That's why I much rather have a discussion with you, right, one-on-one, and give the information to people than to show up begging to be on someone's podcast that I don't even really want to talk to in the first place, right? So it's like, figure out, and we're both going to be drilling this for a very long time as, you know, time goes on, figure out a way that fits your personality, if you're trying to be successful in life, and do it your way, not because, society's trying to want you to do it their way.
Huge. With our generation coming up with new businesses, right? And the way things are run now, look at how companies that have in office, that are run in office, right? The incentives that they give, where it's, let's take out the Googles and the Metas and all those, because they have, their campuses, and they have, restaurants and chefs and spas and stuff like that. But if you're, a big company that's not a campus, but you have a whole floor of a skyscraper or something, or a couple floors, the younger generation, us, right? We understand that the workforce is the business. It's however happy they are, is the product is going to be that much better. So we understand that a pizza party on Fridays doesn't freaking cut it anymore, right? Like, it's the little incentives that we give. Like, it's your birthday. Happy birthday. We truly appreciate you.
The human touch.
The human touch. I've done interviews on the Qualified podcast, right, for Booking Koala. And I've had several business owners tell me that when they hire somebody, they gave them a short little form to fill out, like, what's your birthday? What's your favorite snack? What's your top 3 favorite snacks? What's your favorite movie, favorite artist, stuff like that. So when it is their birthday, or if they are feeling down, they play their favorite artist in the office, or on their birthday, they have a little basket at their desk with their top favorite snacks and stuff. And it's like you said, the human touch. The old companies like the Rockefeller money, stuff like that, those old crusty ass men and whoever else is running those businesses that think pizza parties is fine, and like old dingy cubicles, that shit nobody's happy in that. Why do you think that, like, the turnover rate is so high? There's no loyalty anymore,
Right.
because they're not building that true sense of family within a business.
Well, it's because they got so much money that they don't care, right? It's like, it doesn't matter. They got procedures and, a way to basically filter you out. You get fired, the next guy comes in. Why would we care? It's like they just have too much money to care. So same with like Googles and Facebooks. They just got so much money that to them, that doesn't really make that much of a difference, But for a person that's trying to build a company, we're not all Googles, we're not all Facebooks, we don't.
There are very few, right?
Yeah, there's very few. You can't take that approach. You have to care about the community you're building. You have to care about the environment, the culture you're building in your company, because if you don't, you're losing your edge. That is your edge, right?
Right.
So yeah, that's super important for those that are trying to actually start something in business, or go and work for a business and be happy. Because if you go to work with probably a bank or something like that truly doesn't care about anything but money, then there's no culture. It's just,
when you're not heard, whether it's in a friendship, a relationship, with a family member, if you're not heard, you bottle stuff up and you start to resent, right? Same shit happens at work. When you have management who doesn't listen to any of it, you're going to have poor work reviews from those employees, right? If you find out, say I come to work for you, we're not business partners, but I come to work at Booking Koala, and you give me that sheet to fill out, right? My birthday, May 5th, I love cookies and cream, Hershey bar, whatever else, blah, blah, blah. I have a dog. His birthday's in April. I have a cat. Birthday's in January. if in the next coming year, right, January rolls around and I come to my desk and there's a $20 PetSmart gift card that says, happy birthday, Marcy. April, happy birthday, Jax. $25 to Chewy. My birthday. It's the little things that count. And it shows like how much it didn't take a lot of money out of your pocket to do that.
Not
right?
at all.
But to me, I'm immediately 100% trust.
Right.
And it takes that little to just be freaking caring about people, you know? And that's what it should be all about. That's turnover rates will be a lot less. These analytic companies that'll be like, well, underperforming here or there, all that will get tossed out the window and those numbers will be reduced when you have happy workforce.
Oh, that's huge. Like, look at everything we've built from day one. Everybody's still here. We got employees that have been around for 9-10 years since basically the first like 2 years that I've been in business, right?
I mean, Dennis and Meredith, shout out to them. They worked for you at King of Maids and you brought them over from King of Maids to booking Koala and now they're here with us.
And we're taking care of them as much as we can, right?
Their family.
Exactly. And like in India, the turnover is literally non-existent. Like the culture that Vivek is building over there, nobody wants to leave, right? He treats them like family,
Right?
And that's like how you want to do things, because when you look at the other companies, there's no loyalty. The moment layoffs come on or happen, everybody that is just no good gets fired, right? Or just look in general, like someone like Facebook's going to offer someone an extra $50,000 this year. This guy's no longer working for Google. He's going to Facebook. You know how many people we've had that try to poach our developers? Nobody wants
Leaves.
to take. Yes, because it's just the culture. And that's what I believe in. Like, you want to build something that everybody's happy with, like not just you and me making money or the owners, the shareholders, but everybody. It's a team effort.
If you're into sports, look at any whatever league that you're interested in, whether it's basketball, NBA, WNBA, baseball, MLB, whatever it is. Look at the unhappy teams, unhappy players. Why? For the most part, people that want to get traded out, that request trades, what is it? What is the driving factor for that? They're not being heard. They're not being listened to. It's not a family environment. Sure, there are going to be some pieces where ego gets in the way and things of that. That's always going to happen. But for the most part, if you have somebody where the team wants you to stay because you are a fantastic player and you align mentally, if they're happy, they'll take less money to stay because they want to be there. The fan base,
Right.
the structure of from owner all the way down, GM, manager, assistant manager,
Right.
Look at that. Kobe Bryant stayed with the Lakers his entire career, right?
Yeah.
It's the loyalty that when you're aligned and people are happy, they're going to stay.
Very true. Yeah. I mean, so yeah, happiness was the whole thing. And just to add on to that before we finish, like, even if you're sacrificing things, it doesn't mean that you're not necessarily happy, because like I mentioned earlier, 20s, that I sacrificed and worked my ass off during my 20s, and I've never regretted one single thing, or there was not a time where I was unhappy. Okay. There were times where I felt uncomfortable, right? Because shit, if you're working a whole day doing spreadsheets, nobody wants to do that, right? But that's just life, like you have to do certain tasks that you will not like, right? So that's what I say is uncomfortable, or giving more money than I should because we screwed up with something and you got to pay, right? That's kind of being uncomfortable and not liking a part of that day or something. But when you look at everything else, I mean, I was as happy as I could be, right?
Yeah.
And I'll never regret anything. So like, I feel like that's the choices that people should make. Stick to them, chase their goals, and figure out how to be happy.
Absolutely. The moment you start thinking, I'm going to regret this, you've already made the worst decision possible. If you can project yourself 10, 15 years into the future and look back at the current situation and be like, I will regret this, wrong move. You always want to look back and be like, I regret nothing.
Right.
I would change nothing. Even bad experiences. You will have bad experiences. That's fine. Those are always going to be learning moments. I've gone through a lot of crap in my life. I wouldn't change anything because I became who I am today, and I know I'm a fucking great person. And if I might have even changed one thing, could have completely changed who I am today.
And the people that are in your life. So it's
exactly.
like, yeah, I mean, that's for sure. So yeah, chase happiness.
Chase happiness and don't quit on yourself.
Right. So if someone is deciding remote or office,
whatever is best for you.
Exactly.
Whatever you want.